Bloodied and broken, but with eyes still defiant, the captured human fighter pilot sneered at his captors in the face of certain death, his one life standing against the 1,000 battleships of the Deltan fleet. Quasar, supreme commander of the ruthless Deltan Empire, towered over the restrained human. The reptilian alien's purple and green scales shimmered in the dim light of the interrogation chamber aboard the Deltan mothership. "Where is Earth? What are its defenses? You will tell me or face them all," Quasar hissed, his voice dripping with malice. Jerry Morales, former U.S. Marine and ace pilot, spat blood at the alien's feet. "Go to hell, I'll never betray my people, and your little pet monster doesn't scare me." Quasar's eyes narrowed. This human's resistance was infuriating. His clawed hand slammed down on the console, denting the metal. "Take him to the beast's cage. Let's see how long his bravado lasts against the Maw." Two heavily armed Deltan guards dragged Jerry from the room, down long corridors to a massive reinforced containment unit. Inside, a nightmare awaited: the Maw, a 30-foot-long abomination of muscle, claws, and teeth used to annihilate cities and break the will of the Deltan's enemies. As the guards threw him into the cage, Jerry knew his odds of survival were slim, but he refused to give in to despair. He was a human, damn it. He'd find a way to defeat this monstrosity and the 1,000 ships in Quasar's fleet. He had to, or Earth would be next. The fate of humanity now rested on the shoulders of one defiant prisoner, facing the beast within the Deltan's cage of horrors. The confrontation to come would decide the future of two races, locked in a battle for survival at the edge of the solar system. Jerry slammed against the reinforced titanium walls of the beast's cage, the dim lighting barely illuminating the hulking form of the Maw. Its shadow loomed over him as the heavy door clanged shut, sealing his fate. The creature's putrid breath assaulted his nostrils as it lunged, razor-sharp claws slicing the air inches from his face. Jerry's battle-honed reflexes saved him, allowing him to roll out of harm's way at the last second. His eyes darted around the cavernous chamber, searching for anything that could aid his survival. In the far corner, a pile of bones caught his attention, the grim remains of the Maw's previous victims. Among the grisly debris, a glint of white stood out, a long, sharp bone fragment. Jerry dove for it, his fingers closing around the makeshift weapon just as the Maw charged again, its massive jaws snapping with enough force to crush steel. Wielding the bone like a sword, Jerry sidestepped the beast's attack and struck at its eye, the jagged tip finding its mark. The Maw recoiled, howling in pain, as thick, dark blood oozed from the wound, but the creature's rage only seemed to grow, its movements becoming more frenzied and unpredictable. As the battle dragged on, Jerry began to notice a pattern in the Maw's attacks. Despite its size and strength, the beast had a glaring weakness, a soft, unarmored spot on its underbelly. A plan formed in his mind, a desperate gambit that could either save his life or end it. Taunting the creature, Jerry waved the bone fragment and backed away from the door, luring the Maw to the far side of the cage. The beast followed, its attention fixed solely on its prey. Then, in a burst of speed, Jerry ran towards the opposite wall, his boots pounding against the metal floor. The Maw gave chase, its massive body thundering behind him, the gap between them closing rapidly. At the last possible moment, Jerry dropped to the ground and rolled beneath the creature's belly, thrusting the bone fragment upward with all his might. The makeshift spear punctured the Maw's soft underside, sinking deep into its vital organs. A deafening roar of agony filled the chamber as the beast thrashed in its death throes, its lifeblood spilling onto the floor. As the Maw's corpse stilled, Jerry staggered to his feet, his chest heaving with exertion, but there was no time to rest. The sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the corridor outside, Quasar and his guards, alerted by the commotion. Jerry gripped the bloodied bone fragment tighter and positioned himself beside the door, ready to strike the moment it opened. He knew this was his one chance at escape, and he wouldn't waste it. The door to the beast's cage slid open with a hiss, revealing the looming figures of Quasar and his two Deltan guards, Zardoc and Thraz. Jerry, still gripping the bloodied bone fragment, tensed as they entered, ready to strike. Quasar's eyes widened in shock at the sight of the Moor's lifeless body, but before he could react, Jerry sprang into action. With lightning speed, Jerry lunged at Zadok, his makeshift weapon slashing across the guard's arm. Zadok roared in pain, his plasma rifle clattering to the floor. Jerry snatched up the weapon and fired at Thraz, the searing bolt of energy striking the Deltan's leg. Thraz crumpled to the ground, clutching his wound. Quasar, his face contorted with rage, drew his graviton pulse emitter and aimed it at Jerry. The human, thinking quickly, grabbed Zadok and pulled him close, using the burly Deltan as a living shield. Quasar's shot went wide, the graviton pulse slamming into the Moor's remains, vaporizing what was left of the beast in a blinding flash of light. Seizing the opportunity, Jerry shoved Zadok aside and bolted for the door, plasma rifle in hand. He raced down the winding corridor, his heart pounding in his chest. As he passed a row of holding cells, a familiar face caught his eye. Samantha Lee, a fellow human captive he'd seen during his time on the mothership. "Jerry, over here!" Samantha called out, her hands gripping the bars of her cell. "I can help you escape, but you have to get me out of here first." Jerry skidded to a halt, eyeing her warily. "How do I know I can trust you?" "I'm a hacker and a saboteur," Samantha explained quickly. "I've been working on a plan to steal a Deltan fighter craft, but I need your help to pull it off. We can both get out of here, but only if we work together." Jerry hesitated for a moment, weighing his options. The sound of Quasar's bellowing voice echoing down the corridor made the decision for him. He fired at the lock on Samantha's cell, the plasma bolt melting through the metal. Samantha pushed the door open and stepped out, nodding her thanks. "Okay, let's do this," Jerry said, handing her Zadok's plasma rifle. "Which way to the hangar bay?" Samantha pointed down the corridor. "Follow me, I've been mapping out the mothership in my head." As they ran, they encountered a group of Deltan technicians, their eyes widening in surprise at the sight of the two humans. Jerry didn't give them a chance to react, using his close-quarters combat skills to quickly subdue them with a series of swift, brutal strikes. Samantha darted over to a nearby control panel, her fingers flying across the alien interface. "I'm in," she said after a moment, a grin spreading across her face. "I've got the schematics for the whole ship. The hangar bay is this way." They took off again, navigating the twisting corridors of the mothership. Suddenly an alarm blared to life, the sound echoing through the halls. Red lights flashed along the walls, casting an eerie glow. "Damn it," Jerry cursed. "Quasar must have discovered our escape. We need to move faster." The sound of heavy footsteps and angry shouts grew louder behind them. Quasar and his squad of Deltan soldiers were closing in, their weapons at the ready. Jerry and Samantha exchanged a determined look, their grips tightening on their stolen plasma rifles. They knew the fight for their freedom was far from over. Jerry and Samantha burst into the hangar bay, a vast chamber filled with rows of sleek Deltan interceptors. The Raptor-class ships gleamed under the harsh lights, their angular hulls bristling with plasma cannons and missile pods. "There!" Samantha pointed to a two-seater near the bay doors. They sprinted across the deck, boots clanging on the metal grates. Jerry vaulted into the pilot's seat as Samantha slid into the gunner's chair behind him. His hands flew over the controls, muscle memory from years of flight training kicking in. The ship hummed to life, its fusion core pulsing with power. Bypassing security, now. Samantha's fingers danced across her console, lines of alien code scrolling past. "Shields online, weapons hot." Plasma bolts streaked past the cockpit, sizzling against the hangar walls. Quasar charged in, flanked by a dozen heavily armed Deltan shock troopers. "Take them down," he roared, his scales rippling with rage. Jerry wrenched the control yoke, spinning the Raptor to face the attackers. He squeezed the trigger, and the ship's forward cannons erupted, spewing streams of superheated plasma. The Deltan soldiers scattered, some disintegrating under the onslaught. Quasar lunged, landing on the Raptor's wing. He leveled his graviton emitter at the cockpit, the weapon's barrel glowing with deadly energy. Gritting his teeth, Jerry slammed the yoke sideways. The ship rolled, throwing Quasar off balance. He tumbled from the wing, hitting the deck with a crunch. "Punch it!" Samantha yelled. Jerry rammed the throttle forward. The Raptor's engines flared and the ship rocketed out of the hangar, blasting into the starry void. Delton point defense lasers stabbed at them, the shields flaring under the impacts. Samantha's console pinged. "Incoming transmission. It's a distress signal from New Horizon Colony. The Deltons are attacking." Jerry's jaw clenched. New Horizon was a key human stronghold, a lifeline for the Resistance, and now with a massive Delton fleet bearing down on it. He glanced at the sensor display, showing the Delton Armada in the distance, their ships unleashing a storm of fire on the beleaguered colony. "So we have to help them," he said, his voice hard. "Plot a course." "The odds are insane," Samantha warned, even as her fingers raced across the controls. "But I'm in. Let's make these alien bastards pay." She paused, her brow furrowed as data scrolled across her screen. "I'm in their network. Fleet composition, shield frequencies, weapon specs. Got it." The Raptor plunged towards the raging battle, the monstrous Deltan dreadnoughts looming ahead, their hulls bristling with gun batteries and missile tubes. A swarm of fighters swirled around them, locked in vicious dogfights with the colony's battered defenders. Jerry's grip tightened on the yoke, his eyes narrowing as he lined up his first target. The fate of New Horizon, and perhaps all of humanity, hung in the balance. It was time to even the odds. Plasma streaked past the cockpit as Jerry wove the Raptor through a hail of enemy fire, the stolen ship shuddering under the onslaught. The massive Deltan dreadnoughts loomed ahead, their gun batteries belching streams of superheated death. "There's too many of them," Samantha yelled over the din of battle. "Our shields can't take much more of this." Jerry gritted his teeth, his mind racing. Their lone interceptor was no match for the might of the Deltan Armada. But then a desperate idea struck him. The graviton pulse emitter, the same weapon Quasar had used to vaporize the Maw, if they could get their hands on it. "Sam, I need you to hack into the mothership's weapons systems," he said, his voice tight with urgency. "Find the graviton emitter's control matrix and overload its power core." Samantha's eyes widened. "Are you insane? That thing's got enough juice to level a city. If we set it off—" "I know," Jerry cut her off, his jaw clenching. "But it's our only chance. We can use it to take out the whole damn fleet." Samantha hesitated for a moment, then nodded grimly. Her fingers flew across her console, lines of alien code scrolling past. "I'm in," she said after a tense minute. "Graviton emitter located. Overriding safety protocols. Now." The Raptor shook as a volley of plasma impacted the shields, alarms blaring in the cockpit. Jerry wrenched the yoke, sending the ship into a dizzying spiral. "How long until that thing blows?" 2 minutes tops, Samantha replied, her face pale. "But Jerry, if we're caught in the blast and—" "I know," he said softly. "That's why you're taking the escape pod." "What? No, I'm not leaving you." "You have to," Jerry insisted, his voice brooking no argument. "Someone needs to warn Earth about the invasion. It has to be you, Sam." Tears welled in Samantha's eyes, but she nodded, understanding the weight of his words. She reached out, clasping his hand tightly. "Give 'em hell, Jerry." With that, she turned and raced from the cockpit, heading for the escape pod. Jerry watched her go, a lump forming in his throat. Then, steeling himself, he turned back to the controls. "Attention, Deltan BattleNet," he broadcast, his voice dripping with scorn. "This is Jerry Morales, the human who killed your precious Maw. I'm coming for you next, you scaly bastards." A chorus of enraged roars echoed over the comm as the Deltan ships surged forward, their weapons locking onto the Raptor. Jerry grinned fiercely, his finger hovering over the detonator. The escape pod jettisoned from the Raptor's underside, streaking away from the battle. Samantha watched through the view screen as Jerry's ship plunged into the heart of the Deltan formation, the alien vessels swarming around it like angry hornets. And then the graviton emitter detonated. A blinding flash of light erupted at the center of the Deltan fleet, a miniature supernova, that engulfed the massed ships. The shockwave slammed into the escape pod, sending it tumbling end over end. Samantha clung to her harness, her heart in her throat, as the pod's stabilizers fought to regain control. When the glare finally faded, Samantha stared in awe at the scene before her. The once mighty Deltan Armada was reduced to a field of shattered debris, twisted metal, and flickering fires drifting against the starry backdrop. Of Jerry's raptor, there was no sign. Tears streamed down Samantha's face as the magnitude of Jerry's sacrifice hit her. He had given his life to save New Horizon, to give humanity a fighting chance, and she would make damn sure his sacrifice wasn't in vain. Setting her jaw, Samantha plotted a course for Earth, her heart heavy but her resolve unshakable. The war was far from over, but thanks to Jerry Morales, they had a chance, and she would fight to her last breath to make sure that chance wasn't squandered. As the escape pod accelerated away from the battlefield, Samantha allowed herself one final glance back at the drifting wreckage, a silent tribute to the man who had saved them all. Then, eyes forward, she prepared to carry on the fight, to honor Jerry's legacy and protect the future he had died to defend. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.